this one sweet and short. Not really much to talk about today. I saw the other day, came across my feed that FYF, he put something out like, I didn't know this was old. So when I seen this, I was like, what? And so I really didn't respond to it or say anything, because you know what FYF does. It's a whole bunch of trigger stuff for him. And, you know, it was a post that said, I think this was like 2 days ago, that said, Kevin Garnett, he said that Bronny reminded him of a young Kobe. I was like, what? And I was like, okay, so I'm looking around to see did anybody, you know, react to this, and nobody was talking about it. So I'm like, okay. So I just like left it alone. So today I went and researched it to see, you know, when did he say that? And, you know, I go on their podcast or whatever like that. I don't even know what it's called. I had to look it up with Kevin Garnett. I guess it's with Paul Pierce too. And I got some words for that podcast too. So, but come to find out, you know, because when I was looking through their videos, they don't say nothing about that recently. So I kept having to type it up. And this was like, if I'm not mistaken, he made these comments during the draft. So I don't even know if I made a video. Did anybody make a video on that? It was the most ridiculous thing you ever heard of. He's talking about in comparison to, like, you know, them coming through the draft, them coming, you know, coming to the NBA and what was against them and all this nonsense, you know. And I just thought it was special that FYF put it up on his post to, you know, so he can get some views, so he can get some reactions and stuff like that, because there's really nothing to talk about. And so a lot of that stuff is beside the point. What I'm going to talk about here, I never even really watched their podcast. Kevin Garnett and I guess Paul Pierce, right? Guys who supposedly made hundreds of millions of dollars in their career, but now they have to work like you and me, folks. And the truth about it, I just want to tell you guys, I'm the only channel that's going to tell you guys this stuff. All these podcasts that these NBA players are doing are deep fakes. We've already been told about deep fake, how it's work. Everybody go get the technology. That's the latest thing that's going to make you all this money and stuff like that. And damn sure, this is what these NBA players are doing. They know they don't really have to work. All they have to do is pay somebody to work for them, right? You get the software, and trust me, we can't get what they get, folks. They get what they have in the movies, that type of stuff. You know, the TV networks, they get that kind of AI, top notch, because who they are and the money they have. So we'll never get the kind of deep fake AI that they get. Now, is there people like, you know, on the level of me or you, or just a little bit above, that can have deep fake podcasts and shows? Sure. But we can't get nothing like they can get. In podcasts, they're the easiest to deep fake, because, you know, it's not like you're making a live or something like that all the time. Or it don't even have to be a podcast. Really, it could just be like a regular put out a video and stuff like that. But what's disturbing to me, like, these guys wear glasses all the time, and 99% of the time sunglasses, while being in a dark room doing their videos. I mean, this is like satanic to me. I'm just trying to tell you, bro. It's like satanic. Sunglasses on, dark as hell, in a dark room. What is that all about? And the things it's, let's just say the way they talk. You got to feel sorry for black men, because black men are never allowed to grow up. It don't matter, 25, 40, 45 years old, 60, right? You still have rappers from like the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, still talking like they're 12 years old, folks. And these are rappers who are supposed to have millions of dollars. And you see these kind of, you know, and most of these, what would you call it? These NBA players, they're fake street guys, right? Most of them came from the AAU, right? I would say from about, in the Kevin Garnett generation, probably about 95 on, these guys are academy school AAU guys. They're not from no streets. They're not from no hard times and all this stuff. We were talking about that with LeBron James. The guy that took him out of his mama's hands, and we could even talk about that. I could go in on that, but I'm going to leave that alone. If I'm not mistaken, they took him, it might have been fifth, but I think it was sixth grade. That boy was going to academy school the rest of his life and living middle class, right? With a gym teacher, basketball teacher, in somebody else's house. So the story is, if you don't grow up with two parents in the house, you're from the hood. You came from a bad background. There's millions of white people who grew up with one parent. The reason why the hood turned into the so-called hood is because of rappers. There was no such thing as a hood, really, before '89 when NWA came out, and Collars came out, and Boys in the Hood came out, and Above the Rim. All that turned the black community into the hood. Before that, there's no such thing as the hood. My parents weren't speaking hood and ghetto and slang and all. None of that, folks. They had to make an environment for the black community. And they continue to make this environment for the black community and black men. Now they're trying to take it out to the suburbs, because we all know more black people today, and in really the past 10, 15 years, more black kids today grow up in the suburbs more than ever. More than ever. And the majority, especially in the big cities, the big cities, black communities has been all but gentrified. There's really no more hood. There's no more of this or that. That was back in the 80s, the 90s, and even early 2000s. But what I'm trying to say is, they try to bring this type of hood mentality even to the suburbs now, and act like these kids that grow up in the suburbs, who don't grow up without, go to good schools, they're not without food, clothes, their parents have good jobs, and they live in the suburbia. And they try to bring this hood mentality to suburbia still, right? Because this is the line they always want black men and black kids to follow, right? No matter how much money you get, you still got to act like you're from the hood, like you're without, like you're mistreated, right? Like you're struggling. And why I say that is because, I was just talking about the rappers, how they act. You'll see them like Snoop Dogg and a lot of these cats still, Ice-T, still acting like that. And if you do these guys' backgrounds, a lot of these guys ain't even from the hood, right? But you'll see you'll see a lot of these dudes still like 55 years old, 40 years old, whatever, and they still act like they just came up out of the hood last week, like, right, like they you know what I'm saying. And then you have these basketball players like Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, most likely AAU boys, grew up suburban and stuff like that, putting on this show acting like they're gangsters, right? Acting like they're hood and all this stuff. It's sad when you watch this. They can't speak, especially Kevin Garnett. Bro this, bro. Let me tell you, gangsters didn't used to say bro all the time. That ain't how gangsters talk back in the day. And he tries to put on this image that he doesn't even know how to speak English. Like he can't even properly talk. And then you got your Paul Pierce. He's not as bad, but he tries to put on this image too, like he's from the streets. I think it's just sad, man, how they always want black people to portray themselves this way. And the black people at top will keep their foot on these young black people too, to say, this is your image, this is how you're supposed to be, this is how you're supposed to, portray yourself. It don't matter how much money you get. And it's just not Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. All these, I think Zach Randolph, he comes on there with all this nappy hair, acting nigga this and nigga that and nigga gangster and nigga. It's just crazy. These are the people that's supposed to make all this money, and they can't even come up. That's what we were trying to say. Anthony Edwards can't even come on screen and try to talk like he got some sense for like 5 minutes. And we were like, well, Michael Jordan, he was young too. He was 22, 23, and he didn't want to grow up and be 40 years old at the time, or, stuff like that. But for 5-10 minutes, he could jump in front of the camera and act like he got some sense, folks. And then when the camera turns off, he can go back to acting his age. These dudes can't even do that today, folks. And what's disturbing to me is I don't think none of these guys act like this on these podcasts. To me, the NBA has turned into a big zest fest, or open zest fest. And when I say an open zest fest, I don't mean everybody's running around acting zesty. But I think now it's out more than ever. And trust me, I'm going to tell you again, heterosexual people don't kick it with zesty people. It just don't go like that, folks. That's what they're trying to make it seem like in America. And they was trying to put this stuff on my kids when they were young. You can go to the other side and be with, if you're a male, you can be with a male. If you're heterosexual, you can be with somebody that's zesty, and then you can go back and be straight. And if you're a girl, you can go and be with a girl that's zesty, just try it out, and go back and be straight. This is what they was teaching my children when they was younger in the 2000s, in the 2010s. That's what they was teaching them. And I had to try to tell, not only my children, but, gay people have this frame of mind too, that, because I done talked to some of them, and they say, oh, no, you can go back to being heterosexual. No, you can't. Once you do that with the same sex, guess what? Now, if you want to go back to anything, Now you're bisexual. You'd never go back to heterosexual. Never. Now you're bisexual. If you want to go back with a heterosexual person, now you just made yourself bisexual. That's it. You're no longer heterosexual because there's nothing in your mind, if you're heterosexual, that will make you want to try that over there. Nothing. Nothing. And I done had Zesties push up on me all my damn life. And there's nothing in my mind that ever made me want to try that. Now, if you want to try that, I'm not trying to say it's wrong. If it's in your mind that you want to try that, you might be bisexual. And that's fine with me. If you want to try that, it might be in your mind. Okay, maybe you're straight zesty. That's okay with me. But how you feel can't be taught. And that's what, they've been trying to teach these children that for a long time. Because what I always knew is that's how you felt. You didn't have to be taught that that's how you were. That's how you were. That's why you talk to a lot of zesties, if they were born like in the, the 70s, the 80s, the 60s, the 50s, and you'll talk to them and they said, I've been feeling that since I was 6 years old. And I couldn't say nothing. There was nobody to talk to. There was no, you know what I'm saying? And then maybe they might meet an undercover zesty like themselves, you know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. But what I'm trying to say is, that's the way they felt for a long time. No, nothing was teaching them to be that way, folks. It wasn't until we really, got in the 2000s where that thing kind of opened up. And now they were being taught. So what's that have to do with the NBA? I'm just saying the NBA is a complete zest fest to me. I'm going to be honest. The NBA is a complete, if you don't believe me, this thing about to open up in the next 5-10 years. A big zest fest. So I don't like these guys on these podcasts. They're fake. They're phony. And it's a problem. To me, it's a problem when black people, they have to be phony about how they really are and what they really represent. And that's what these NBA players, they're all phonies to me. I was shocked when I saw Derrick Rose podcast because I didn't know Derrick Rose was like that. Man, fuck this and nigga this and goddamn yeah. I'm like, Derrick Rose? What? I was blown, man, because we know Derrick Rose from Chicago. He rose, up and walked away from all the violence and stuff like that was going on. All the black, young black men that were getting mass murdered in the 90s, the early 2000s, the late 80s and stuff like that. Mostly because of gangster rap, folks. Ain't nobody parents taught them how to do this stuff. It came from the music. It came from the movies. So only people responsible for that is the music and the movies. That's it. Not the white man, not drugs, not that. Drugs been around in the black community, in the white community, in the 70s, the 60s, the 50s. They weren't mass murdering each other. It wasn't until the music and the movie said, this is what you got to do. It's what you got to do to get ahead. Well, dude, that's what you got to do to get ahead. And so all the immigrants came in and said, this is how we got to get ahead. We're going to take all the jobs. And then you ain't got no ownership in your own community, so we'll take your community. So I was just shocked, man, how Derrick Rose is portraying himself on them podcasts. It ain't got nothing to do with being real, man. It has to be doing with how you portray yourself is what these children are going to see out here. And now these children is portraying themselves as gangsters now in suburbs. They ain't got no real hoods to go to now because all that's been gentrified. All that's gone for the most part. So it's just, I can't listen to these dudes. All they do is cuss, sound like idiots, bro this. But it's just an image. Once that camera turn off, man, you'd be shocked to see how these guys really act. You'd be shocked to see how these guys really act. And most of them act more effeminate than a damn Care Bear. And that's the problem. That'd be one thing if most of these dudes acted, acted gangster, but when the camera turned off, they acted all proper. You know what I'm saying? That'll be one thing. But no, folks, these dudes is acting more effeminate than a damn Care Bear. That's the problem. So, to me, if you know anything about homo thugs, that's what these guys act like. The homo thug thing originated with all these rappers who was gay. They started this homo thug movement. You know what I'm saying? Lil Wayne was part. A lot of these dudes was part of it. Baby. I ain't gonna say no more names. That's a whole video. I would have to prove a lot of it, which I can. But I would have to put up images and videos and all kind of stuff. But This is what you got from these guys, man. You got a bunch of idiots who's supposed to made hundreds of millions of dollars, but they act like they just rolling out from the streets every day, banging and all this stuff. And like I said, what is it? What does it show? They're trying to show black men, no matter how much money you get, sound, act, dress, and carry yourself like an idiot. For real. I still see today, black men 40, 45 years old will show up to a festival, they still showing their underwear. They come to work showing their underwear. It's like, what? And if you tell them what that means, they act like they don't even know. It meant that you was ready in prison to have sex with another man if you was walking around with your underwear showing. That's what it meant. It didn't originate from nowhere else. And of course, we didn't have this knowledge. We didn't have any understanding of it when it first came out. Like a lot of stuff. We don't have no knowledge and understanding about a lot of stuff when it's put on us, or when we told to do it and stuff like that. But after a while, yes, we now we know what it meant. We've been knowing what this stuff means for how many years now? Whew, I would say about 20 years now, close to it. That it means you want to have sex with another man. You ready? That's what they was doing in prisons. So the rappers came out and started showing us how to do that, showing the black men how to do that. But we didn't know what it meant. Our parents didn't show us how to do that. Our parents didn't dress like that. It was taught to us by the rappers in the movies and stuff like that. So basically, they made a fool out of us. But we'll still support them to this day, the same ones that have made a fool out of us. But it's just stuff like that, man. You just that's why I can't listen to these guys' podcasts. I can't do it, man. I can't. It's like, how can you listen to somebody? And these guys go to like rich people's functions, be hanging around all these, celebrities and all these proper people. Then they come back and put this fake lifestyle on black people and put this image on, because they know that's the only people going to support them podcasts. Really, is black people and the young people too. Really, so they're gonna pull up sounding like idiots. I'm trying to tell you, man, it's the saddest thing you ever seen. It's the saddest thing you ever seen. But that's the new NBA now. It's not even a real sports league. And truthfully, like I told you guys before, if gambling wasn't legal, no, the NBA really would be done, folks. That would be it for the NBA, because nobody's watching this trash. Nope, nobody's watching it. There's nothing exciting, nothing that moves you, nothing. That's the only thing that's moving it. Because before, like I said before, they push gambling so much. It's just head scratching now. If you're older and you look at ESPN doing prop bets, doing parlays, just over and it's just mind blowing to see this is like real. Because the whole thing behind gambling in sports will be like them fixing games. What was that guy's name? Donahue, whatever his name was, fixing games. And now the NBA became so bad, folks, and their viewership was going down the drain, that they had to make gambling legal. Don't think they didn't lobby with the government to get this thing legal. Don't think that, folks. In other sports too. I know football really ain't had no problem with viewership, but other sports probably, I guarantee you, lobbied the government to get this stuff legal. Because all sports in the United States, for the most part, basketball, baseball, hockey, guess what? Ain't nobody watching that trash no more. So you already know them lobbyists went straight up into that money, went straight to Congress, straight to the local government, and handed that money over. You got to get this legal. We're done. Now, did it change viewership to where it used to be? No. But everybody gets paid. It brought the viewership up a little bit, or it helped the viewership from dropping off the damn app, because now people want to watch it. I mean, you don't always have to watch it just because you put money on it, but a lot of people want to see what's going on. They put money on it. So it stopped it from falling off the damn app. A lot of these sports, but like I said, people are not watching these sports like baseball and basketball and hockey for the viewership. I mean, for the excitement, for the because they care about it anymore. They're watching it because they put money on it. Just nobody cares. Look what they did. Don't think they didn't do the same thing in hockey that they did with baseball. They basically put all the damn American players out, and they did that with football, and now they're doing that with basketball. So the all sports leagues is just going to be a whole bunch of international players that nobody cares about, and they're going to make money because they're still going to have their They're still gonna have their core fans or whatever like that. But you got to remember, most of their fans in in baseball, basketball, and hockey, a lot of these, well, a lot of the people who go to those games aren't even real fans, right? They just want to see entertainment. These aren't real fans because, just like in basketball, go watch '90s game, go watch '80s game. Listen to the intensity in arenas, folks. Watch when somebody's travels. I'm talking about the travel or carry or palm. It'll be like you're in the spotlight. You know, the game's just going, and then when the players like travel, carry, or palm like that, the crowd will erupt and point that out. Just go crazy. And then, you hear play-by-play guy, if they don't call it, which a lot of times they do, and which a lot of times they don't even need the crowd to even say nothing because the referees will call it because it was a standard. But if the referees don't call it, that dude will be in the spotlight. That crowd will rub, cussing, he carried, yeah. And then the play-by-play guy say, Boston crowd thought, Michael Jordan carried. You know what I'm saying? They don't say nothing like that today, folks. It ain't no standard. I'm trying to tell you, I was watching the game last night. The Bulls and the Knicks, and it was like a slaughter fest. And I don't even know how Michael Jordan won 3 championships going through the Knicks. I just don't, I don't think Pippen carried them. But that's the only guy he really had was Scottie Pippen. If Mike was off, he was done. He didn't have nobody consistent except for Scottie Pippen. And they called Michael Jordan in the first 3 quarters. In the first half. Was it the first half? Either it was the first half or the first 3 quarters. They called him for 3 palming violations, folks. And he didn't say nothing but kind of, make a face and walk off on one of them. The other 2, he didn't even say nothing. They was calling dudes for travels, carries. Because, like I said, folks, you was getting cussed out by the crowd. The referees was getting cussed. What do you mean you're a fucking referee and you can't even see this goddamn carry? They need to get you out the league. And stuff was real back then, folks. It was real. They was doing an interview with they did an interview with Phil Jackson. And they was talking about how Phil Jackson used to be a Knick, and I think he won a 72 or 73 title with the Knicks. And since he's been a Bull coach, how they treat him very differently in New York. And they interviewed him. They were asking him, "What's the worst you've been called?" And he was saying a whole bunch of bad stuff that the Knicks fans say to him. It was just incredible. But he wouldn't say all the bad cuss words that they said to him. He said he couldn't say it, but he pretty much, they pretty much buried him. Pretty much buried him. Called him a traitor. Called him this and that while he was coaching. Why the hell are you even on this court? Everything. You had to play through intimidation of the damn crowd. It wasn't just some dudes on a court trying to intimidate you and talk mess. It was like these dudes was literally on the court, the crowd, destroying you mentally. It wasn't no social media run through. It wasn't no dudes getting thrown out of the game. Yeah, if you threw something at somebody. But it was almost like they was throwing stuff at you. They was stoning you with words. So vicious. Remember, this was the 90s, man. This was the 80s. These fake studio gangster suburb, gangsters today? Are you kidding me? The John Morants and the John Morant come play in the 90s. You come in there, they're trying to take your head off. I'm not trying to talk about no Pistons and, stuff like that, punching and kicking the dude while he's in the air, but you're getting a hard foul. They'd rather have you get the hard foul and you knock both of them down and you think about, do I want to come back in there? Not me, but you could get a flagrant back then in 93. But a hard foul, if it looked like you swinging on somebody, but somebody just go up to you straight up, boom, like that, body to body, arm to arm and stuff like that, they ain't going to call that a flagrant. Doc Rivers went up on Michael Jordan with a damn knee in his stomach and kneed the hell out of him. He was on the ground for like 10 minutes, it seemed like, and they called him for an offensive foul. You out the game today, bro. You do some stuff like that. He went up, knee first. I'm talking about, I never even seen Mike like that. I think he might have kicked him in the crouch, but I don't know. Maybe where his shin landed, it hit him in the crouch, but where his knee landed, he kneed the hell out of him in the stomach. But let me get off of here, man. The NBA is a disgrace. And we already told you, they can't sell it. Why do you think they got all these NBA podcasters? They're doing what the NBA wants them to do. They're making money off their deep fakes. But They're keeping the NBA alive with a soap opera, not no on court greatness. There's none. You won't have to have all this soap opera if you had on court greatness, because the on court greatness would create the soap opera. It always did back in the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, the 60s. The on court greatness made the soap opera. Now, the soap opera, or the 95% soap opera today, is trying to make this on court greatness that we don't see. We don't see none of it. So they got to bring you some young and the restless. They're paying these guys 10, 20, 20 million a year, 60 million a year, 50 million a year for a soap opera. For a 95% soap opera, no on court greatness. These guys are getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars for no on court greatness. This is crazy, folks.